Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our live session today. My name is Rachel Sweelan. I am the Director of People for Cloud Academy based in the US. For those of you who don't know a lot about our company, I know you know about our product. We have 125 people working at Cloud Academy spread across 12 different countries around the world. And we've put together this live session for you today called Nail Your Tech Interview. However, I would like to put one caveat in place. After we started preparing for this session, we realized that we had a lot more to tell you about than just nailing your tech interview. So hopefully you won't mind that in addition to talking about the tech interview, we're going to talk about a lot of other things as well that will hopefully help you. So I've assembled a panel today of experts across the company. I'd like to introduce them to you. First, we have Luca Boratti, who is one of our engineering leads in the Swiss office. Luca has been with the company a little over 4 years now. He was the very first person I hired when I joined the company. And we snatched Luca right out of university. He came in as a junior software engineer, and he has since made it quite far in the ranks. He's moved up several times, and now he's one of our engineering leads. Welcome, Luca. Thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you, Rachel.
Second, we have Carlotta Rogero, who is also joining us from our Swiss office. Carlotta is our technical recruiter. She recruits for all of the positions on our engineering team. Our engineering team is located in Switzerland. And Carlotta recruits for back-end engineers, front-end engineers, QA engineers, machine learning, cybersecurity leads. So she is the one who sources, interviews, recruits, and hires all of the engineers that we have at Cloud Academy. Thank you, Carlotta. Welcome.
Thank you, Rita. Welcome.
And finally, we have Simone Terranova. Simone is also joining us from Switzerland today. Simone is a senior product manager on our product team. And Simone joined us last year, moved with his family from Rome to northern Italy. And the reason I invited Simone to be on this panel today is because Simone used to be an engineer, and he made the transition from engineering into product, which is something that some of you may be interested in doing yourselves. So we're going to ask Simone some questions about that transition and ask him to give some helpful tips and advice about that. The way we're going to structure this live session today is I'm going to ask our panelists each a couple of questions that I've prepared for them. And then after that, we'll give you an opportunity to ask your questions. So if you have any questions, type them in. We'll get those queued up on the chat, and then I will ask them to our panelists at the end. Okay, so let's kick things off. Carlotta, I have the first question is for you. One of the things that I think is really important for anybody looking for any kind of job, but also in tech, is making sure that they have a really great resume, one that's very attractive to recruiters and really highlights their experience. And also secondary to that, as you know, because you spend a lot of your time sourcing passive candidates, it's very important to have a really great LinkedIn profile that also is attractive to recruiters, but also very importantly is searchable to recruiters. So you spend a lot of your day searching on LinkedIn. And so I'm curious to get your take on what are some suggestions you have on how somebody can make sure that their resume is very, very up to speed and very attractive to recruiters, as well as their LinkedIn profile, and also how can they make sure that their LinkedIn profile is searchable to recruiters?
Sure. Well, there are not any magic formulas, but we can definitely identify some tips. Between the two of them, the LinkedIn profile and the resume, there are some differences, but they both basically show the most relevant step of a career path. We can say that a CV is effective when it's clear. In other words, focus on things you know how to do. Concrete, because it speaks about measurable achievements, and also personalized, for example, with a well-finished graphic. The LinkedIn profile is the tool to showcase your personal brand online. Have a complete LinkedIn profile is the first thing. So the job title or headline, the professional picture or cover image, the summary, job positions, education, skills and endorsement, and of course, many connections. Among this section, the most important is the summary. So make sure you have a really good summary on the top, because this is the first thing a recruiter will check out. And this section, it must describe who you are, what your role is, and why you are passionate about what you do. The second section, very important, is your current role. So make sure you have described very well all your responsibilities and achievements. Choose this over your company description. And last but not least, of course, the keywords. And here I'm answering also to your second question. Make sure you have listed all your skills, programming languages, work methodologies, tools, certification achieved. This is really important. And of course, remember to set your profile to say that you are open to work. This, I would say.
Great. Thank you, Carlotta. Yeah, I think that's a really good point you made about on the LinkedIn profile, ensuring that you list your current role, right? So a lot of people on the LinkedIn profile, they put the company that they're at and the job title, and then just a description of what the company does. But if you're a recruiter and you come across a LinkedIn profile and you don't have a resume, that's the only thing you see. So I think that's a really great point you made, is making sure that on your LinkedIn profile, you're also listing what is your job, what are you doing, what have you accomplished, etc. And then the only thing I would add is make sure you are beefing up that LinkedIn profile with as many connections as you can. So always connect with anybody and everybody you meet, connect with their colleagues, etc. That will help you be more searchable as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a follow-up question to that question. So let's say your resume looks great, your LinkedIn profile looks great, you've been reached out to, you've been contacted by a recruiter, whether it's a job you've applied to or not, and you've got that first interview scheduled. So obviously we're going to talk in a little while to Luca about the tech interview, but what I'm curious to hear from you is, what are your tips and suggestions for somebody as they're preparing for that initial interview with the company, possibly even a second interview that might be a pre-tech interview, or even if they make it to the final interviews, what kind of things can you suggest to people to help them really prepare for that initial interview and any others along the way?
Well, there is a lot of advice I could give, but if I have to identify, the most important is this: get prepared. I do think a job interview is not really the opportunity to improvise, so make sure you know very well the job position, and of course, do research about the company, and in particular about the product, the mission, the history, and the values. And if it's a product company, like for example, Cloud Academy, try the product before the interview. The recruiter will really appreciate this thing. Another important thing is, when the recruiter asks you about yourself, make sure you stick to the facts and to the more recent and relevant professional experience. Also show the skill you have that are aligned with the job and match with the company, and be concrete. So speaks about your main achievements. And again, last but not least, ask questions. Ask questions about the product, ask questions about the company, the mission, the history. This is really, really important. Show your enthusiasm. Yes.
Great, thank you. That's all very good tips. I love it. Try the product, do your research, be prepared, ask questions, all great things to help you prepare for any interview, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
I'm gonna move along. Thanks so much, Carlotta. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
move along to Luca. You're up next. So the body of this live session, right? Let's talk about the tech interview. Now, here at Cloud Academy, we conduct a really thorough, really tough 2-hour technical interview for all of our engineering positions. It's conducted by 2 of our senior engineers. Luca, I won't ask you how many tech interviews you've conducted in your 4 years here. I bet you couldn't even count them if you tried. Yeah, so that's good. That's why I brought you here. I want to ask you about that. So, so when you are preparing for the tech interview, okay, so you've made it past the recruiter, you've possibly made it through any kind of pre-assessment, pre-technical interview, and you've been invited to have that tech interview. What can you tell us? What can people do to be prepared? What can they expect? And I also am curious to hear, do you have any tips about during the tech interview? What if something goes wrong? What if things aren't going well for you? How should you handle it? Tell us everything you know.
Thank you, Rachel. First of all, I think, I mean, a lot of companies have different ways to perform the technical interviews. So the first suggestion is kind of understand, gather some information during the first phases of with the first interviews to kind of understand what's going to be the format of the technical interview itself. So, for instance, try to understand if you are going to be required to write code, or you're going to be required to solve problem-solving exercises, or just more Notion question in general. So try to understand what's going to be the format of the technical interview. In this way, you can kind of be prepared. I mean, not be too much surprised on how the technical interview it will be structured. And in general, for this point, I suggest you to kind of prepare yourself, perform different simulations in a very similar environment. For instance, if you are required to write some code, but you will not be able to use your IDE, your best programming language, just put yourself in a similar situation and try just simply to perform exercises, simulate an entire session of a technical interview. You know, it's 2 hours long, then just sit for 2 hours and try to simulate problem solving and question for 2 hours and see how you behave, and if you feel a little bit comfortable or you are having a lot of issues with these kind of formats. Another suggestion maybe is kind of for the preparation itself is maybe try to identify what are you lacking maybe from your experience and your knowledge with respect to the single position in general, the specific position you're going to interview. So for instance, if you feel that the company requires some technology or some tool that you don't know, or they have a high expectation of competence and knowledge on a particular topic, and you feel a little bit kind of lacking in that, try to focus your study on those points in general. I know it's a very simple suggestion, but try to kind of understand what's missing in your curriculum and your experience with respect to that single job, and try to have even just a very superficial knowledge, some context on the argument itself. It could be just be seen much better than completely having no idea of what they are asking or talking about. Regarding the technical performance, the technical interview itself, maybe my best suggestion is to kind of avoid to be completely silent. Maybe when you are asked some question, try to answer, but don't be too scared to get it wrong. For instance, one very important point is to be very direct and honest. So maybe you don't know the precise answer, or you're not able to solve an exercise, or I don't know, you don't have idea how to solve a problem in general. Try to be honest and direct about the current situation, that maybe you're facing some challenges in solving or in answering, but maybe try also to explain why you're having some issues, and try to explain what you could do to kind of overcome that situation and that issue. For instance, if you have some superficial knowledge, you can kind of guess a little bit a possible solution, but be very clear about that you are kind of guessing a possible solution, and you maybe need some further studying, or I don't know, some additional preparation. In this way, you avoid to be completely silent, that it's not usually a very nice style, and you anyway show that you kind of try to solve the problem that you face by yourself. And in a similar way, even when you perform mistakes and error, don't be too kind of ashamed of that. It happens. It's not something that all technical interviews are required to kind of get everything perfect. Sometimes interviewers tend to kind of raise constantly the bar and try to find some knowledge that you lack, just to kind of test a little bit you. Don't be worried too much to get something wrong. Of course, it's not the best getting too many things wrong, but don't be too worried about that. Don't let a single mistake or a single issue kind of demoralize you too much. I've seen candidates kind of lose a lot of passion, and also they became a lot scared to make mistakes after just one single error, and they had issues with the technical interview in general. And I think that's it.
So if I understood you correctly, just confirm this with me, you're looking for the answers, but you're also looking for how people are getting to those answers. So you're looking to see how they're solving the problems and how they're getting to those answers as well. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. And also how they react to the interview itself. Maybe it's not like the first, for instance, for developers that are your interviewers, the developers that are performing your interview, or experts in general, they maybe are not tasked to kind of check those aspects of your personality, or how you kind of tend to behave with others. But if you react not too well to, I don't know, critics, or during the technical interview, they are going probably to leave a feedback about how you behaved during the technical interview. So pay attention to that. Be kind of open to feedback. Be very open to receive criticism, and be able to adapt during the technical interview.
Okay, great. And correct me if I'm wrong, Luca, but I know that at least here at Cloud Academy, I can't speak for other companies, but at least here at Cloud Academy, it's okay if somebody doesn't get everything right, because you are assessing also their level. You're not just assessing whether they can get every single question right. You're assessing whether they might be a junior software engineer, or a software engineer 2, or a senior software engineer. So they're not necessarily going to fail if they don't get every question right. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it depends on the companies, but sometimes even not less experienced figures. I mean, if there is a good fit in the company, it happened also for Cloud Academy that we weren't looking for junior backend developers, for instance, and we then found ourselves very good candidates that were at junior level, and we decided to hire them anyway. So sometimes it's not that that companies do not adapt and make decisions during the way once you started the interviewing process in general. So I totally agree with you. Don't be scared to fail, and don't to get something wrong, and don't think that you are not prepared maybe enough for some interview. So that's mainly my point.
Great, thank you. I hear that loud and clear. So it's just as much about how you're conducting yourself during the tech interview and trying to solve those problems as the answers you're getting. Thank you, Luca. I'm going to come back to you in a little bit with another question, but I'm going to move it over to Simone right now. So Simone, as I mentioned, Simone used to be an engineer, and he made a transition to product. So Simone, I have a question for you. What would you suggest to somebody who is maybe in engineering right now and wants to move into another field, let's say, for example, product? What would be your advice and your suggestions on how to transition into that dream field or get that dream job that might be in a completely different field?
Well, transitioning into your dream job role, it's actually a job itself that takes time and preparation. So you want to invest on studying, getting prepared, and also adopting an approach that's more structured, that will help you shine in the job hunting process. Long story short, you want to move from a point A to a point B that may be even far away from the first one. And like every journey is made up of several steps that don't happen overnight. So you'll need to invest time on each step in order to perfect them and maximize your probability to be successful in the hunting. As you mentioned, in my case, the point A was software engineering and the point B was product management, but it may work also if you want to move within the same industry. So if you want to move from pure development to cloud, for example. So the first step that I took was, I will call it a retrospective. So a comparison between the description of my current job role and the new one, and with the purpose of looking for similarities that I could leverage within my resume, and also differences that I could rephrase and reframe to transform them into a tool that allow recruiters to grasp my ability or my that I am a fit with the new job role. To make it a real example, as a software engineer, and Luca, keep me honest on this, our skills are key. So you need to show that you are able to handle complexity and you know technologies and you can move between technologies and adapt. While on the product management role, for example, soft skills are key. So you need to prove that you are able to provide an impact, bring an impact to the company. But even looking at my software engineering experience as an engineering lead, for example, you are responsible for improving the sprint velocity. So you can say and include in your resume that you've been able to improve that by X%, or that you have been able to reduce bugs by Y%. So you can rephrase them into a different structure. And the second step was the resume. So actually translating this assumption and this consideration into the resume. And also, I will put a lot of stress on keywords and jargon. So each role has a specific jargon. So I will study and search for keywords that are specific to the new job role, because as Carlotta mentioned, human recruiters use that as a tool to search on LinkedIn, for example, but also ATS, so automated tools that rank your resume to say if you're not, or if you're a fit or not to the position, are based on that. And also consider that a recruiter is not a professional in that field, so keywords are the best way to understand if you are the right fit. And sometimes it's just a matter of rephrasing a sentence because you have that competence or that experience, but you are not using the right words. And how do you know that your resume is right now? So I joined communities, meetups, so people that are in that field, so experienced professionals, and I asked them to review my resume. And then they provided me with a lot of suggestions, words to swap and to change, and I would suggest to do the same. And the last thing is interview. So practicing interview. As Luca and Carlotta said, preparation is pure gold. You need to invest a lot of time on that. And in my case, I did something that was looking for each company that I was interested in and listing them from the less interesting one to the most interesting. So that I could leverage the less interesting to practice interview and to list all the questions that I was asked, so that when it comes to the dream company, you won't be put on the spot. So you will be prepared for that. And a good tool to practice is also mock interviews. So if I was to come back to software engineering, for example, I would ask Luca to interview me, to run mock interviews and get a better proficiency in that.
What do you think, Luca? Would he pass?
I don't That's right.
That's an interesting approach, Simone. I like that about the to gain the most interview experience you can in terms of ranking the companies you're interested in. I tell people all the time, anytime you have an opportunity to do an interview, do it. It's just going to help you get more and more experience. Another thing that I think was really important that you mentioned in terms of keywords and being searchable and an ATS, while we at Cloud Academy, we look at every single resume that comes in, we read it, the recruiters, but a lot of larger companies, their ATS screens resumes. And so it's all the more important to make sure that you have those keywords on your resume. Simone, I have a follow-up question for you, if you don't mind. So as we're continuing to talk about this transition, right, from one field to another, it's most likely going to be the case that you might be lacking some things in your profile, right? So there might be some gaps. And if you're applying for a product job and you might be missing some things that are listed as requirements in that job, what do you recommend? How do you approach that? How do you kind of compensate for any gaps that might be present in your background?
Yeah, my advice in a nutshell would be don't panic, because every resume has gaps. Even professionals in that specific field would have gaps in their resume compared to another company or to a specific job role. So my suggestion for that would be scanning the resume and looking for requirements that specific technologies or soft skills that you don't have, and list them out, and then start working on them, practicing or studying on platforms such as Cloud Academy, e-learning platforms, or even a book. So the best, what it works best for you to cover these gaps. To make a real example, even coming from a software engineering experience, I was more into non-relational databases such as MongoDB, while SQL is really a must for a product manager. I knew it, but I knew that I needed to be better at that. So I invested time to get a better proficiency on SQL. And so if I have to list one gap that's really likely to happen, and this is the most important one, is the experience gap. When you apply to a new job role, you will always be asked to have 1 year or 2 years experience, but how do you get that experience? I would suggest to run your own side project. So you start having an experience, so building an experience on your own, or even supporting a friend of yours, or I don't know, a colleague within your company. So your company is your best friend, because you will have, in my case, a product manager in your company, and you can propose yourself to support on small tasks, and then you start gaining experience. Another way to do that would be joining non-profit organization or meetups to at least start having conversation with on other people projects. And you can even apply to early stage, really early stage startups, because the bar there is lower, because they're at the beginnings, they are less attractive for senior professional, and you will have more chances to get into that job role. The last piece of advice that I feel like it's valuable would be around mock interviews again. Look at mock interviews as a tool to enter a company, because when you run mock interviews, you're running them with Luca Buratti again. That's the one in charge of running tech interviews within Cloud Academy. So if I have a chance to run this mock interview with someone within Cloud Academy and I really nail it, it will end up referring me for a position at Cloud Academy once we have one available. So that's it.
Thanks, Simone. I love how you talked. I think you talked about it in the first question, but it's totally relevant for the second question too. Finding those skills and translating them, right? So you have the skills from a prior job. You just have to figure out how to make them relatable to the job you're applying for. So oftentimes you can do that by just translating them into the correct way, right?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you, Simone. So I'm going to come back to you, Luca. I have another question for you as we continue on this idea of engineering and having a career in engineering. I know that a lot of people, and especially engineers, really want to be able to grow. They want to join a company where they have a career path, a defined journey, opportunities to learn and grow continuously. Just like you've done here at Cloud Academy. And so I'm curious, do you have any suggestions or advice to people when they are interviewing at a company, right? So when you're a candidate, you're interviewing the company just as much as they are interviewing you to see if it's a fit for you and what you want. What advice do you have to somebody on how they can ensure that a company they're considering joining has growth opportunities for them?
It depends actually on the company, so it's very hard. It depends on the company culture in particular, so it's very hard to kind of understand just during interview an aspect of company culture as this that it's career development for their employees and growth path, career path in general. So maybe try to ask maybe during the interview flows like pretty much the same question to different people. Try to reach different point of view to the same problem. If you have the chance to ask some question even to the developers, that they usually tend to be the one with they will be much more direct probably than HR during the first interviews, than the final interviews, and be maybe very, very direct and honest with if you have an interview with a manager regarding about this topic, how the company manage promotions. Is going to be clear what's going to be my role, my position, what is the next position? What are the next position? Do we have a career path? There are different specialization. I can change my path from this one to another one in the future. Try to understand from the answer of maybe the manager that you're contacting during the interviews, but also with developers that tend to be direct. Try to understand how actually they behave during regarding growth and career in general, because it's not simple. There are a lot of simple questions like simple answer that yes, everybody has occasion to growth. We tend to promote a lot, but it's then you don't have actually a culture there. So in order to understand that, I think it's better to kind of ask pretty much different question on the same topic to different person, be very direct, honest to manager level position if you have the chance to talk with them during the interview.
Okay, great. Yeah, I like that. Asking the same question to multiple people at the company. I love that because you will get a different answer from each of them, from their perspective, and it can really help you shape your view of the company and their culture. So thank you, Luca. Those are all the questions that I have prepared for you. I'm going to open up the floor now for any questions from the attendees. Anyone out there listening, any questions you might have for Luca, Carlotta, or Simone, throw them up there. And oh, we've got our first one here. We've got a question. Okay. I think I will ask this question to you, Carlotta. It seems to be directed towards you. What is one thing you recommend a candidate does not do at any point in the interview process? So can you think of any one thing, Carlotta, that somebody should just never, ever do?
Yeah, sure. Many things actually, but as we said, like if a person sits for an interview is because he or she wants to impress the recruiter and get the job. So again, I do think this person, a candidate, shouldn't get to an interview without any preparation. So this thing is really important, and it takes just, you know, a short time. Just go to the website and see what the company does, and that would be really useful.
I agree with that 100%. That is something you should not ever do, is not go to an interview unprepared, whether it's the tech interview, the initial interview. That recruiter is the one deciding if you are going to make it further along in the process. And I think it's okay to ask questions as well before your next interviews. So who am I meeting with? What is their role? Especially for that tech interview, ask the questions like, what's the structure going to be? Who's going to be there? Is it going to be on video? All those things so that you can really be prepared. Okay, great. Thank you, Carlotta. And it looks like we just have one more question right now. So unless any others pop up, we'll probably finish it off with this question, and I think I will direct this one to you, Luca. What is one piece of advice, the biggest piece of advice you would give to a junior software engineer as they are progressing through the ranks? Can you think of one thing, Luca, one thing that you can think back and give as your piece of advice to somebody?
Be very direct and give feedback about your growth. Be very direct about your growth to maybe your manager, or it depends on the company and the size, but the person that are kind of responsible for your career. Be direct. If you feel that you don't have like a clear path of your growth, I think you can be direct about that with your manager or managers, I don't know, and kind of you can also promote kind of the culture of regarding the career and the growth from the bottom. Just be direct and say, okay, it's not clear what are my next steps, and that's kind of limiting for me. Maybe you can be very direct and open to feedback regarding this in general, and you should be also open to receiving feedback. That's probably, thinking personally, I think that was my main issue, but be very open to criticism and feedback in general.
That's a great piece of advice, right? Being open to feedback, really a willingness to grow. We have another question that's come up. I think this question, I'll throw it out to either Luca or Simone. You can either one of you take a stab at it, or both of you provide your input. So if a person like me, who has worked as a DBA manager and the last 2 years working in cloud migration, if I want to move to an SRE role, how would you recommend to adjust to that, moving into an SRE role?
Sorry, it was for me. I lost you for a moment. Okay, about these
Either
in general.
You or Simone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. About this in general, I think it depends on the current situation you are at the moment. Do you have someone in your current situation that can help you with this transition, so to facilitate the issue, or you are some kind forced to be to have like change completely your position, and you don't have, I don't know, the support of your current company because maybe there is not the competence or there is no the experience there. It depends on the situation. So if you have a competent experience in the company, try to be much more proactive in having maybe the key figures that you maybe identify that are the more expert about the SRE position in general, and try to kind of be proactive and be direct, and maybe having some helping during the with coaching or onboarding, and of course training. I think the training was kind of always present. That's, I think, very important. If you're kind of a little bit more alone and you see you need to kind of transition by yourself, you need to focus much more on individual training in general. You need to be very prepared, because during interviews, that's right, the bar will be higher for you since you don't have experience in that specific position. So you need to be very prepared on the topics and find a company that kind of has the ability to help you make this transition in general. So you need to find someone that is probably strong on SRE and can help you transition to a SRE role in general. Because if they look just for a single SRE and they have no one, probably it's not even easy for you to kind of facilitate your transition.
Okay, great. Thanks, Luca. I think this next question is probably very relevant to you, Simone. So I'm going to throw this out to you. You touched upon this already a little bit, but maybe you can even add a little bit more to it. So during a career switch, can expertise compensate for lack of experience? So yes, if yes, how can somebody convince the company that they can deliver the job, even if they don't have any practical experience that they can show?
Yeah, as you told, I mentioned that a bit, maybe in the gap question. This is actually the most frequent one, so I wouldn't panic about this. As I said, expertise is your strongest weapon, and the answer is yes. You can leverage that experience, and you can rephrase that. You can reframe that expertise into something that shows that you may be able to accomplish what you are supposed to do in the new job role. So how do you convince your company that you can accomplish that? I think that maybe you can leverage your trust in your current position, because if you show that you've been able to do well in your current job role, you already have the trust, but within your company. So it depends on the size of the company itself. If the company is small, I would do what I was mentioning. So it is likely that your colleagues are full of work. They will have spillovers, and they will be happy to allow you to help on small tasks. So I will start from that. So I will start gaining experience, leveraging your expertise and the trust that you have within your colleagues and company to start doing small things. And then when you achieve a result with the small things, you can increase your commitment and move to bigger things. And then at the end, you can ask the company to move into another job role when, for example, a job position opens in that field. So you can apply internally. If the company is wider, is bigger, I think it's less easy than that. So because it's more likely that people are already not at their full bandwidth. So I will try to invest on side projects, and then try to ask for, I don't know, a bit of time throughout the week that you can invest on your, I don't know, on upskilling, and you can invest that time in side projects and then show that you've been able to accomplish something.
Okay, great, thank you. We have a couple more questions that have come in here, but one person, thank you, whoever this is, actually put in a good tip. It's not a question, it's a good tip. And I forget about this sometimes because we, like I said, we review every single resume that comes in at Cloud Academy, but for the companies that don't do that, it is important to make sure your resume is in a text-only format. It's definitely helpful for the ATSs that are auto screening those resumes. So thank you for that tip. Let's see, another question here is talking about somebody not coming from an initial company, right? So a lot of recent college grads trying to break into the cloud with no actual cloud experience. My suggestion for that, and any of you guys who want to chime in, please feel free. But we do hire some more entry-level type positions at Cloud Academy. And so we, of course, know that you're not going to have several years of experience working, but there are so many other things we can look for on that resume. We can look for projects that you highlight that you were a part of, anything you led in college or in grad school, any kind of initiatives that you've led, any kind of internships you've had. Anything like that that shows that you've kind of gone the extra mile while studying, or even getting certifications while you're in school. Not that you have a lot of time to do a lot of other things while you're in school, but getting any kinds of certifications that you can. What do you guys have anything else to add to that?
No, I would just kind of, we already said it, and also there is a comment from one participant. So personal projects, I think that those are very key. In particular, if you think that you have, also for the other question, if you think that you are very strong in your expertise in general, but you lack experience, I think the very hard part is kind of to not be blocked by the first screenings. So I think the issue there is usually from the first screening that are not performed from technical people, and then you don't even have like the chance to face like the technical interview. And for those cases, I think the main, the most important thing is to have personal projects by yourself. I mean, invest a lot of time, a lot of hours, create projects with from an idea with your friends, I don't know, but then put them on your CV. It's kind of, it's kind of personal project. It's not like working experience, but if you are able to show that you kind of invested your time and you kind of have some experience by yourself, it's much better than kind of having like no experience at all. And it's very hard to kind of gain even to the technical interview. And if you are strong, if you think you are very strong and you don't lack in expertise but lack in experience, that's I think the main issue, and a personal project can solve that.
Great, that's a great one as well. Okay, let me move on to another question here. Let's see. Any suggestions for those that are pursuing a career change to the cloud? So besides joining Cloud Academy, taking all of our courses, doing all of our assessments, completing all of our hands-on labs, and then getting all of your certifications, what do you guys think? Any other tips for someone who wants to move into a cloud role?
Yeah, I can answer.
Thank you.
To this, I would say that cloud technologies are wide. There are a lot of providers and platforms out there, and I think that's a field where certifications are really valued. So I would pick one. So the one that you are more comfortable with. So for example, AWS or Azure, and then focus on that, because otherwise you will lose yourself in preparation. So you can focus on one, get certified, and then you can leverage the certification as a tool to enter your this new job.
Yeah, and there's kind of a follow-up question to that too, and we may have touched upon this, but you know, for those that are looking to transition to a cloud role and don't have that experience, do we take into consideration people who have participated in cloud-related projects? I would say absolutely yes. What do you think, guys?
If you put them very well in the curriculum, yes. I mean, I know it's not, but just simply having like other projects or something like that, you know, if you kind of you need to kind of show that you have some experience by yourself. I mean, but it's going to help for the initial part, and try to focus companies that it's not easy maybe with the first interview straight. Companies that, I mean, they are not going to rely completely on you, because that's kind of and they are aware that you are going to be introduced probably in a team. Then you can grow a lot from there, from experience with your colleagues.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a good point, Luca. Make sure that you really highlight that appropriately on your CV, talking about what your role was in the project, what the project was, etc. Those are the kind of things that will really stand out. We have another question here, but I am actually going to defer this question to one of our learning coaches. I don't believe that we have anyone on the panel right now that will be able to answer this question. I'm going to throw the question out there so that the person who answered it knows that we will get the answer to this question for you. But the question is, as a beginner with 4 years of testing experience, is it the right time to enter AWS? If yes, would you suggest the practitioner or the architect certification? Which one would be preferable? So we've got a team of learning coaches who help our customers guide themselves through our learning paths and accomplish their goals in the cloud. So I'm going to raise that question to one of our learning coaches as soon as this live session ends, and we will get that answer over to you. So thank you to whoever asked it.
And Rachel,
we have
a live session with the learning coach right after this one. So maybe the one asking for this can join the other live session and ask our learning coach live.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And if you're not able to, don't worry, we'll get that answer to you as well. But yes, we do have another live session. It's going to be a great one too. So that's all the questions that we've gotten. So I'm happy we got some great questions, and our time is up. Thank you very much to all of you who've participated today. Thank you to my panelists, Luca, Carlotta, and Simone, for taking your time. Thank you to those of you who've taken the time to listen to us. I do hope you've learned something today, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.